Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. I'm Katie and lucky you have another Beyond the Box. So it might not have been the most extravagant of boxes to kickstart the year off with, but January's offering of Scrawlrbox, I don't know, I really enjoyed it. I thought value wise the markers are not cheap to buy on their own. Also finding another brand of thick marker paper, it's always a win. Having a Blackwing pencil and a nice fine pen, I think for the amount Scrawlrbox costed, that's a pretty good deal. Like I say, not the most extravagant or exciting materials, but I enjoyed it nonetheless. So, you're joining me on my last drawing of the sketch pad that we had. And it's not very often I finish a sketchbook or sketch pad, so I thought I would share my last drawing in here and show you the rest of the book and what else I added to it. For the majority of this sketchbook, I used the materials from Scrawlrbox. However, there are one or two pages where I added a few other marker pens, and the liner pen in this just wasn't great for doing thick lines, so I end up using a different liner pen in some areas. Because filling in areas like I am now with the thinnest nib known to humanity, okay, I'm exaggerating there, but it was starting to not be fun, so here we are, nice thick pen. It is also a Kuretake pen though, so you know, I kept it in context. I also carried on doodling throughout this book because I mentioned on the Scrawlrbox unboxing that I had been suffering a little with artist block, and I'm not going to say, oh wow, it's all cleared up, it's miraculous. No, you have to work on it. And I think just having a whole book where there was no pressure and I just did a rough sketch and then went absolutely in there with the pens and the ink, I think it did me some good. Not every drawing has to be a masterpiece, and it was just nice to get into a flow of sorts with at least something. Although it was slightly planned out, there is an element of spontaneity here, and I think that's good. And mistakes are made, and that's also good because it's an exercise of hiding those mistakes or turning them into something that looked better than I'd planned. So any of you guys who have Scrawlrbox, how did you get on with your doodles? Have you managed to fill the book, or are you a bit precious about the paper? I've already got a couple of different but still nice thick mark paper. One is made by Canson and it's called The Wall, and I will leave a link for that in the description below. And another one I've tried is by Art Space, which I think is an Upcrate brand, or it's linked to Upcrate somehow. And again, they are all very similar to work on. The surface itself feels like good paper, and the thickness and the weight also feels like real paper, and that's not anything against normal marker paper, but I like thick paper. All three of these kind of papers though can take a good amount of medium. They're really good with alcohol pens, and I have found as well that they can take Posca pens, which are the acrylic based paint markers, but they can also take some of the more oil based markers, and I used that on a few of the pages in this book and none of it bled through. However, let's talk about this book. Now, I did notice one little thing, and I think if you haven't gone through your whole book like I have, it might be worth taking this on board. I didn't do any of these pages in order. I kind of just went to a page I fancied drawing on, and then I'd go back and go on the other side. Now, yes, the ink doesn't bleed through. However, I did notice though that if I had a colour on one side of the paper and I was drawing on the other, somehow maybe the alcohol seeping through, even though the pigment didn't, reactivate it on the page underneath and kind of marks the page beyond that as well, if that makes any sense. It's not a big issue. I'm sure you could just slide a piece of paper in there, or it might not happen at all, but that is just worth noting if you are gonna do every single page in here. And with that being said, and if you made any sense of that, we'll carry on talking about this drawing. So I kind of wanted to make these paisleys a little bit more interactive with something else, and there's a bit of a theme of that through the book as well. I thought I would have a hand just picking up one little slither of paisley and dragging the rest of the patterns with it. I thought this would just be fun, it would just add something a little extra, and I don't know about you, but I always could do with the practice of drawing hands. I tend to find that sometimes I've got the hang of it, I can draw a hand no problem, and then other times it doesn't look like it's a human hand, and sometimes it doesn't look like a hand at all. So this was a good opportunity to perhaps practice, and maybe I was just feeling a bit better about the block thing, and I thought, right, let's just do a hand, just keep it simple. And once I'd got all of these lovely line details down, it was time to start adding some colour in there. I used the grey pen just to add a hint of shadow to the hand, and I must admit that's the only one that's kind of survived out of all three of the markers. The other two have pretty much been used to death, and I think this drawing was the final nail in the coffin. I'm not going to be too salty with it, I'd go over a lot of areas more than once, and I think they lasted a decent amount of time. I've paid money for expensive markers and they've not lasted very long, especially Spectrum Noir, although I'm not too salty about them now because they have improved them, but pens from a couple of years ago I'd got from Spectrum, they wouldn't last very long at all, so I don't feel bad about these lasted longer than they did. But as you can see, the ink is starting to dye in them and the nib is starting to fray, and that just shows I got a lot of use out of them. I was still able to blend things though, and I kind of almost got a gradient, and I thought it would be a nice juxtaposition to have the colour in the background and all of the details in the foreground. Overall, this was a fun last picture to do. I have no idea when my next completed sketchbook will be. I flit from book to book depending on my mood and what medium I want to use. Can anyone else relate to that? Did you have several sketch pads or sketchbooks on the go? I am terrible for it, and I still never think I've got enough. However, each sketchbook serves a purpose, so I don't feel too bad about it either. But it would be nice to have one or two of them that were finished, I guess. Anyway, that is this doodle complete, and I will whip through and show all of the other ones. And obviously some of these are from the Scrawlrbox video I did. I added a little fox to the hedgehog page and a little bit of a blue background on this paisley haired girl. And then I went wild on one page, and this is where I kind of noticed some of the colour bleeding through. You can't massively tell, but I noticed it. I added a different marker pen for the background on here, and that silver Molotow pen I got from Scrawlrbox years ago. But it only cost me £5, you know the one. For these pages I just went wild with the paisley, and then I did a 3D paisley, and I thought, you know what, let's turn an owl into a paisley, and you can see this is why I haven't got much ink left in the pens, and of course the swatching. And that's it, that's the whole book done. I think I might actually enter the 3D paisley as the Scrawler challenge, because why not? Anyway, I hope you have enjoyed this Beyond the Box video, and if you enjoyed this, you'll probably enjoy some of the ones on screen now. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, and I will see you soon. Bye!